Hello, it's Helen from Journal with Purpose and welcome to my latest video. Today I'm going to be creating some journal pages in this new journal which has been very kindly sent to me by Christine at London Gifties. So I thought I'd start off with a quick unboxing of the lovely goodies that Christine sent my way. It was such a special treat, and I love that Christine nearly always includes a wonderful selection of teas, most of which I've never tried before. And the journal itself, as you'll see in a minute, is absolutely beautiful. It always feels like a special day when a package arrives from Christine. And I really appreciate all of the little extras and the details which go into every package that I've ever received from the London Gifties shop. So along with the teas, she's also included some sweets and some postcards. And the journal that she sent me and that I'll be using in today's video has only just very recently gone live on her online shop. These postcards are absolutely beautiful, and I will keep some of them for sending out in Happy Mail, but I will also be using lots of them inside my journals as well. So now we'll move on to looking at the journal, and it comes inside this beautiful presentation box. And again, I think that's such a lovely touch. It just looks and feels so special already. And as I mentioned, the journal itself is A5 size, and it comes with a green hardback cover. And I really like the gold foiling detail on the front too. The journal lies really flat, and it has 160 pages of 160 GSM thick paper. And Christine asked if I would like to try it out, which was a definite yes please. And she asked me for her first impressions on how the paper held up and what I thought of the journal. So I thought the best thing was to film my first attempts in the journal. And as you can see, it's got white dotted pages. So I'm going to try and throw all sorts of different things on the paper to see how it holds up. And spoiler, it definitely holds up really, really well. The notebook also has a ribbon, and it has a pouch inside the back cover. The first thing that I wanted to try was using some distress ink on the pages, because I know that that ink has a nasty habit of bleeding through journal pages, so I thought that would be a really good place to start. I'm using distress ink in Vintage Photo, and I'm using an ink blending tool to rub that ink all the way along the outside of the pages. I wanted to go for a lovely vintage autumnal theme, so I'll definitely be using lots of browns, yellows and oranges on these pages. And I just placed some spare bits of paper underneath to make sure that I don't get any ink on any of the other pages. Most of the products that I'll be using in this video are from the London Gifties shop, so I will definitely leave a link to that in the description box down below, and I'll try and remember to leave links for anything else that I use too. And if you do decide to place an order from Christine's shop, then don't forget to use the code Helen at the checkout, and then you'll get a free roll of exclusive tape. And again, I'll leave a reminder for that in the description box down below the video. Christine sent me the lovely selection of postcards, and the one that I've included is one with a message that she wrote to me. And I'm using one of her gorgeous washi tapes too to just tip that in along the centre of my pages. The next thing I'm doing is using some thin strips of washi tape to mask off 2 rectangles. And I can't remember where I got this washi tape from, but it was a really cheap set, and they don't stick particularly well, which actually works really well when you want to just be able to put them down and then easily remove them. So I'm placing them to just create those rectangles because I want to add some paint inside them and just keep it within inside those shapes. I thought that along with the distress ink, another really good way to try out these pages would be with a wet wash of watercolour, just to see how that paper held up. And the paper is very thick, it's almost like card but not quite, and I have to say that I had no problems at all with anything that I used, and nothing at all bled through onto the other pages. The paint I'm using is handcrafted watercolour paint from London Gifties, and the paintbrush is from Skoda. I'm starting off by mixing some browns and orangey type colours to tie in with the images on the postcard. And I'm adding quite a lot of water to the mix because I want the paints to be able to really nicely run into each other. So I've started off with that light brown, and now I'm moving into a slightly richer colour. And if I want my colours to all be able to mix, I tend to try and get all of the washes ready to go before I start. As you probably know, I usually do my bullet journaling in an A5 size journal, and then the rest of my journaling I usually use my standard size traveller's notebook. And I'll still definitely be using my standard size TN a lot, but I've actually really enjoyed working in this size for my journaling. I've done another few pages since, and I'm just getting a feel for it and how I want to lay all of my pages out. And I think this type of journal is great if you want to be able to add lots of creative kinds of elements and add different mediums to your pages. I'm now adding those washes of paint to my page and doing the background in the lighter brown colour, and then just dropping the other 2 paints in so they can all mix around together really nicely. Even with all of that watercolour added, there's really hardly any warping on the page whatsoever. And if I had to compare the journal, I would say it's very similar to the Archer and Olive journals. I've got one of those at home, and I'd say that the paper quality is really very similar to that. Once the paint was completely dry, I carefully removed those thin strips of washi tape. I will be using those 2 watercolour rectangles as my journaling spots. The next thing I'm going to do is use this washi tape, which is again from London Gifties. I thought that the leaves would tie in really nicely with the postcard. And one of the things I love about this washi tape is it has a transparent background, and whilst I sometimes use it in a more traditional way, I actually really enjoy cutting out the different elements and using them as stickers, and that enables me to play around with where I place them on my page. So I'm going to put a run of those leaves in between the 2 watercolour rectangles. I really like how those are looking, and I decided that I would also add some more leaves along the right hand side of the right page, and that really nicely ties the two pages in together. I'm really loving seeing how the trees are all changing colour here in the UK at the moment, and it's so nice to be able to tie in my journal pages with what I'm seeing when I'm going out on my dog walks each day. I'm now just going to tidy up the bits of the washi tape which are poking out over the end of the page, and as you can see, none of that distress ink is showing on the next page. The next thing I'm going to do is use my vintage style alphabet stamp set, again with that brown vintage photo distress ink. And I'm going to stamp out the heading for my journal pages, which is Live in the Moment. I found recently, I think particularly with everything that's going on in the news, it's so easy to get caught up in everything that's going on. But actually, if I remind myself to just live in the moment, enjoy what I'm doing, enjoy being at home and taking walks around, looking at the beautiful countryside, that really helps to calm me and give me an appreciation for everything that we're so lucky to have in our lives. I've stamped the Live in there at the top of the left-hand page, and I'm going to add Moment at the bottom right underneath the postcard. And I really like then how that encourages your eye to travel across both of the pages at the same time. I will definitely be sharing a lot more videos of me using this journal. And it got me thinking, I'd love to know what your favourite size of a journal is to use. I'm spending quite a bit of time trying to work out what my journal setup's going to be for next year, and trying to get my head around what size books I want to use for what. I know I'll definitely still be using my standard size traveller's notebook, and definitely my A5 dotted journal for bullet journaling, but I know I'm going to be doing lots of this as well. And I'm also trying to think about what kind of planners I best want to use next year, and just how I'm going to set everything up. Once I've got my head around all of that, I will definitely share a video giving you all of the details on what my 2021 journaling setup is going to be. I've been more thankful than ever for my journals this year. I've used them perhaps in a slightly different way at times, but it's really given me that lovely space to be able to reflect on things that are going on, how I want to approach those changes that are happening, and also, of course, a space to get really creative and just lose myself for a little bit as I'm thinking about just the fun of journal layouts, how I want to decorate them. And I find that when I'm doing that, I'm more or less able to forget everything else that's going on around me, at least just for a little bit of time. On my journaling spaces, I've written the headings Do More and Do Less. And then I'm using this gorgeous mushroom washi tape from London Gifties along the bottom. I will go back and add my journal writing later on in the video, but I now wanted to start adding some decoration to that right-hand page. And I wanted to see how well the paper held up to glue, so I thought I would add a simple collage. So I'm looking through these old book pages, and I'm just looking for some muted colours, but so there's a slight variation in the shade of the pages. And I'm roughly tearing those out because I like to have those rough edges along the side of the paper. I'm not adding as much journal writing to these pages as I usually do, and that's mainly because I wanted to make sure that I tried out lots of different things on the paper so that I know exactly what it can handle, but also partly because I was getting used to using this size. And I find it's really interesting when you swap what kind of size journals you use for what. Just getting used to the space that's there and how you best want to use it. But despite that there's less writing, I actually really love these pages. I've got that note from Christine in there. I've been able to document the colours around me and use it just to reflect on the things that are important to me at the moment. So I've glued those pieces of paper down using Pritt Stick. And I'm now using that same brown distress ink again on the back of this rubber block stamp from London Gifties, which is an image of a girl hugging a tea or coffee cup, and I thought that was beautiful. So I'm just stamping that on top of those collaged papers. To finish off these pages, I'm just looking through these stickers, and I'm going to add one of the white florals for some decoration, and I will also be adding a ticket. So really nice and simple pages, but I had a lot of fun just playing around with different things and deciding how I wanted my pages to look. For the journal writing itself, I spent a few minutes thinking about the things that I want to do more of and do less of. So I thought about what things make me feel happy and relaxed and which things are likely to make me feel more worried or anxious. So under the do more section, I wrote things like more deep breathing and stretching, listening to music, creative fun and exploration, focusing on one thing at a time, lazy lunches and having early nights. And to do less of, checking my phone in the evening, rushing from one task to the next, saying yes to things when I really want to be saying no, worrying about the outcome of things I'm working on, less consuming of the news, and less rushed meals. So those are the things that I want to be focusing on a lot over the coming months. I really hope that you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope you're doing well. If you have enjoyed the video, it'd be great if you'd leave it with a thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, I would love it if you would consider subscribing. If you've got any questions or comments, as always, please do leave them down below. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I look forward to speaking with you really soon in the next one.